Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger. And my friends, today I want to talk about the rags to riches story that is Nagoriyuki in Guilty Gear Strive. Here is a character early on in the game's life, and even earlier on with the betas and all that, but early on in the game's life, starting with the launch of the game, he was perceived as an outright weak character. And here we are now after EVO 2021 has wrapped up, and he made a lot of appearances at EVO, and overall, even a little bit before, but definitely now after EVO, he is perceived as a strong character. And the real interesting thing is this. Nothing about the character has changed from that point at the beginning to right now. There's been no balance changes, no patch, no nothing. He is exactly the same character he was then as he is now. The only thing that has changed is our knowledge and our perception, and that alone has changed Nagoriyuki from a weak character to a strong character. And I find that very interesting. This is a phenomenon that has existed throughout fighting games. It definitely isn't unique now, but it is very rare for a character to go from perceived strong to perceived weak when nothing has changed about the character other than knowledge, right? So I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about why he was perceived weak originally and why he is perceived as strong now. So let's get to it. So before we dig into it, right, there's been plenty of other games where before any balance patches occur, we just sort of underestimate what the character is capable of, right? Let's use a modern example here, Mortal Kombat 11. Very early on in the game's life, people thought Cetrion was a bad character, and like, oh my god. Definitely off on that one, right? Maybe a lesser example, but one near and dear to my heart, Collector, right? So many people wrote Collector off as nothing. And Collector was definitely a character you had to kind of figure out your setups, figure out how to properly control the screen, all that kind of stuff. But in the end, he became decent. And this is even before like some of the patches that helped him out, right? In the end, when he was figured out, he became decent, even if he was perceived weak all along, right? He was a character you just had to put the time into. Now let's move the clock back really far back, right? Let's go to Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. In that game, one of my favorite characters of all time, T-Hawk. T-Hawk was the dirt dog worst character in the game. And it was that way for many, many years. Then all of a sudden, we figured out some tech. Long story short, it has to do with how negative edge works and the fact his command grab has no whiff animation. And then basically he has a lot of like near unescapable throw loops that if you try to get out of in any way, you just immediately get uppercutted. I don't want to make a video about that. It's a little too late for that. Many years too late for that. But yeah, he went from the dirt dog worst to a workable character, right? So just the sheer amount of knowledge you get, regardless of any amount of patches, is enough to make a character strong. And that's exactly what happened with Nagoriyuki. So why was Nagoriyuki considered very weak earlier on in the game's life? Well, the first thing, and the easiest obvious thing, right, is Blood Rage. Blood Rage, you gotta get a feel to how to manage it. Simple as that, right? And every time you do it, well, that's half your life. It won't kill you, thankfully, but it's probably a good way to start losing the round, right? And for a lot of people, and I got the YouTube comments to back it up, trust me, a lot of people, they thought that was the point. They thought getting the Blood Rage was the whole deal, right? They're like, oh man, your normals get longer and they do more damage and you get the big super afterwards, right? Like, this is what you want. Like, no, dude, trust me, I know how to play Nagoriyuki for real. This is what you want to do. And like, no, you really, really didn't. A lot of people didn't appreciate the fact that this berserk animation is basically punishable anywhere on screen if you whiff. And this guy is negative 66 on block. And most of the cast has a full screen punish for this. So a lot of people who thought this was the correct way to play, they were definitely having a bad time about it. Coupled with some other things and stuff like this I am exactly guilty of too. Before I put a lot of time into the character. Stuff like, oh, stand slash, that's the longest range move, right? You know, that doesn't go as far as it doesn't go far. So this is the range I should be fighting at. And like, nope, definitely not true. But something about, you know, like Street Fighter background I have, that's kind of the mindset. You want to fight at the range of your longer normals, right? And while this certainly has its uses, don't get me wrong, trying to always fight at this range is definitely not the right idea to have. So when it comes to many factors, just not understanding what we would learn to be the more optimal game plan at the time, trying to just brute force things, make things happen, like, Blood Rage Nagoriyuki being the optimal way to play, which it definitely isn't, using suboptimal normals at suboptimal ranges, all that kind of stuff. We just didn't fully appreciate the right way to play. Like, yeah, earlier on we definitely all saw the combos, like, look at my sick combo, but the blood management is god-awful, and, like, these are the things we have learned over time. Better blood management, it's better to do 5 less points of damage and, build 1 less blood bar, right? Versus building a whole extra blood bar for just, like, less than a jab's worth of damage, right? These are the things we've improved over time. And then we come to now, right? And now we know, through a lot of trial and error, how Nagoriyuki should roughly be played. There's a couple different schools of thought, sure, there's no one correct way, but we now know multiple correct ways. Just little things like, okay, if I hit you with the old Beyblade, right, the old spin to win, okay, I get my free follow-up, which is great, which is also great for blood management, right, because the 6HS mostly pays for the spin, which is awesome. So we do that, and then I teleport, and then I'm directly in your face. And that's one of the bigger things, right? He can get his big combo and still be directly on top of you, which is one of the best things about the character, and earlier on was definitely not one of the things that was being exploited or used to any real degree. Get your big damage, teleport on knockdown, I'm still in front of your face, you still have to deal with me. Earlier on in the game's life, a lot of people had no idea that your blood level determines how your normals work, right? Like, that's a level 2 sword swing, and at level 0, HS ain't ever going that far, no way, right? So now, riding the lightning as it were, purposely making sure your blood gauge is higher so you have access to these better, much more dominant normals, like stand HS, down HS, it's like 60% of the screen or something like that. I don't even know, man. Like, it's just amazing, and forget about controlling the air at all, right? Like, you do not want to be airborne once he's got some levels up in his sword, and the range starts getting much more extreme. Like, the idea of you want to be a complete nut and build that blood over and over and over non-stop until you basically get to level 2, and once you get to level 2, then you're playing Samurai Showdown, right? Okay, level 2, sick. All right, just do this. That's all I'm going to be doing. And if I hit you, even from this extreme distance, sick. That's like 30% of your life off a mere poke. And of course, the pokes also, on top of more range, get faster the higher and more leveled up you are in your blood meter, right? You can go from Berserker to, super patient person, which is very interesting. And once again, too, the Beyblade itself. Not too long ago, I did a move, top 10 moves of Guilty Gear Strive. I personally, and you are free to disagree, but the spin, the Beyblade, I rated this as the best special move in the game of Guilty Gear Strive, because I think it's the best move in the game, because it's got everything you could possibly want. Like, okay, I want to work my way in, but I don't want to try too hard. All right, spin your way in, done. It's 0 on block of point blank, it's plus on block from far away. Short little hop here, right? With proper timing, this short little hop, it totally goes over a lot of Axel's crouching lows. So if he's doing a bunch of stuff to pressure you, you can literally do like a little short hop over it. And say it actually hits, right? That's awesome. Either it hits normal and then teleport after for more pressure, or it hits counter hit, which leaves you close enough to do a close S. And then it's like, bro, enjoy your free corner, because you're definitely taking him to the corner. And if you hit him like at all, then it's going to be a wall break. Move is very, very strong. So he's definitely a character with a bunch of weaknesses, right? Don't get me wrong, it's not all upsides. But it took a while for us to appreciate a lot of the upsides. Some of them are a blunt hammer that you can use in any given situation and you'll basically always be working out for it. And some of them are a little bit nuanced, like, really watching that blood gauge, I'm going to force myself to level 1. I'm going to force myself to level 2 so I can get better normals. that kind of stuff, right? Because that is a very applicable and very powerful part of his gameplay. So what's the moral of the story here? Well, I don't know if there is one, honestly. I guess it's more just a fun story to tell. Of course, everyone's making their new post-Evo tier list, and now everyone's saying he's, you know, super top tier, S tier, whatever. When these might have been the same people, you rewind the clock a little bit when they're saying he's really bad and barely a step above Faust, right? So that's generally just how it goes in fighting games, I guess. But generally, this is always a story I like. You know, just our own knowledge, just plowing through, learning the character is what brought him out of the doldrums to the limelight, right? Now, this definitely always isn't going to be the case. Sometimes a character just sucks, and that's all there is to it. And the only thing that will save that character is a balance patch, right? But in the case of Nagoriyuki, it was on us, and we mostly figured it out. And, you know, people are still getting better with Nagoriyuki every day, right? So he has the rags to riches story. So with all that said, my friends, I'm going to toss it to you guys now in the comments below. What do you think about all this? And do you think, is this an isolated case, or is there perhaps more to be told, right? Is Giovanna secretly gonna steal top tier from Soul one day? Is Faust the best character in the game and just no one sees it but you? Please let me know, right? But otherwise, that is the end of this video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some Guilty Gear.